All right, good morning, everybody. I had a request to give a description on how to use the data collection tables that you found inside of the collecting test data PDF. It's from week 4 if you want to follow along with that PDF. It's within the week 4 module. It's called collecting test data. And there's 2 charts in there that explain how to track the issues that your users come across during testing, and also how to decide on the severity and prioritization of those issues. So that's what this video will cover. If you've looked at those charts and you're confused, this video is for you. If you think you got it, then feel free to skip ahead. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch over to the full screen here, and the first table I want to start with is the one without the severity and frequency and all that. So this table is tracking issues that the user has with or during the test, not necessarily the tasks themselves, okay, but the issues. So you could have multiple issues for the same task, all right, and that would be part of this table. This demonstration shows different tasks, but again, remember that there could be different issues within the same task, and the description would just be slightly different. Okay, so this first is just an ID of the issue. All right, it's not like an ID for the user or anything like that. It's just a unique identifier that in some instances is helpful to have. All right, so we start with an ID. This can just be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way to infinity, right? And beyond. So the next thing you're going to want to tell us is where this is happening. Okay, so it's not just happening maybe within the flow that you're testing. There's a very specific place that it's happening, right? Like within each flow, there could be multiple pages or multiple screens. We want to know exactly where it's happening. All right, so this is saying this first issue that the user has is happening within the login page during this task. So this is the task that we gave the user. This is where it's happening, okay, in that task. The next, we just give a little description of like what the user is fumbling on. Okay, so in this case, it's saying on the login page during the tasks where they're supposed to log in using a social network, they didn't recognize the Twitter option. Okay, so and then next we have all of our participants listed out, and if this participant ran across this issue, we give them a 1. Okay, and you can see here participant 1 didn't have an issue with issue number 2, but participant 2 and 3 did. So again, we give them a 1. All right, and it's important that this is just a 1. All right, there's going to be some math here later where this has to be a 1. All right, so it's never going to be like a 2 or a 4.5 or something like that. It's just going to be a 1. All right, if they had an issue with it. If they don't have an issue with it, you're not going to have anything there. And so the next question that always comes up is like, how do you set up all the issues before your users start going through the test, right? And the answer to that is you don't. You do it as people are going through the test. So every time there's an issue, every time there's a new issue, you're going to have a new row here, all right? All this right here is all going to stay the same, because as you go through, you need to write down if each participant has that issue. But you're basically going to start with nothing. I would recommend going in with just like your headers set up, right? If you're going to test 5 people, have all 5 of these going. And then as people start running into issues, you can start adding them here, right? Okay, so that's the first thing you're going to do. This is pretty straightforward, okay? If there's an issue, you give it an ID, where it's taking place, what task they're getting stuck on, a description of the issue, and then give them a tally here, okay? The next thing we want to look at is criticality and impact, okay? And this is where you're kind of the judge on this, okay? So this is where the table gets a little bit more complicated, but I showed you the first one first because this is just kind of like an expansion of that, okay? So think about this as like downloadable content, an expansion, just sort of extending the functionality of this table. All right, so your ID on the left is the same. Your task is the same. Where it's happening is the same. I think they actually reversed these. Yeah, this used to be where and then task, but that doesn't really matter. Here we have task criticality. Okay, so this is another column that you're going to want to have. This is really up to you. Okay, you have to decide. So like this first task, log in using a social network, how critical is the task affected by the issue? Okay, so the description of the issue is they didn't recognize the Twitter option. And so we're asking ourselves, how critical is that to the overall task completion? Okay, so when I'm looking at that, we don't know exactly what this app is showing, but maybe there are multiple social networks, right? There's a Facebook, there's an email, there's an Instagram, there's a Twitter, a LinkedIn option that the user can use to sign in, all right? And maybe the user didn't recognize the Twitter option, but there's other options that they can use to log in. So they're not necessarily blocked by this, but it's still relatively critical. This score is almost always out of 5. Okay, so a 3 is pretty critical, right? Like you wouldn't want just logging in general to have a score of 3. Okay, you'd want that to be 0 basically. But here we're giving it a score of 3, meaning the user wants to log in a certain way and can't. They're going to have to do something else to get logged in. They can still log in, but it's going to be a lot more cumbersome of a task. Okay. And then finally, the other thing we have here that we're kind of, determining for ourselves is impact. So how high is the interference of the issue in the experience? So it's not how critical is being able to find the Twitter option to logging in. It's how impactful is not being able to log in to the overall experience. It's pretty high, right? So we give it a 5. Again, rating of 1 through 5. 5 is the highest, okay? So that's where the impact comes in. I'm going to go over these again because people get these confused. So task criticality, how critical is the issue to completing just the basic task, okay? And then this one is how impactful is that issue to the whole experience, right? They can't log in. That's a pretty big fucking deal, right? Pardon my language, but like if your user can't log in, they're not going to be able to do anything. So it gets the highest impact, right? Okay, the next thing we've got who had that issue, right? Just like I showed you before, keeping track of that tally. Same thing here, right? Okay, and then this is where we start doing a little bit of math, okay? So we have to think of the frequency that this happened, right? This happened 1 out of the 3 participants. So you're basically going to go how many tallies you had. In this case, it was 1, divided by the amount of participants that you had. And that'll give you a percentage. This is 0.33 or 33%, okay? Again, down here, right? 2 out of 3 people had this issue during the task, okay? We have slightly different impact and criticality because creating a post, right? If we ask them to create a post and it took more than 3 seconds to find the add post option, 3 seconds is really all you have to get your user's attention. They're probably going to get frustrated and leave. This is a very critical issue, so we give it a criticality score of 5, right? Impactfulness, you can still do other things within the app. You can still add friends, comment on posts, etc. You just can't create posts. It's relatively impactful, but you can still use the app. So we've nominated this as a 2. All right, that's where severity comes in. Okay, so as you can see, this is the formula for calculating severity. You've got task criticality, so whatever this number is, okay, and you're going to multiply it by the impact, okay? So you've got impact right here. So technically, the highest number you could have at this point is 25, right? 5 times 5, okay? And the next thing you're going to do is you're going to multiply all that by the frequency, which is this number that you came up with by doing this math, okay? And so this is usually where it's going to drop a little bit. If everybody had that issue, this is going to remain 1. And this number is just going to be this times this, okay? So once you get your severity score, you can start to pinpoint where your focus should be. If you have a really, really high severity score, like 10.05, that's not a small severity score, right? We had 67% of our participants run into this issue, and it's a 5 on task criticality, they're not able to create a post, or at least very easily, right? To the overall experience, it's still pretty high. A 3, that's over 50% of our 5-point score, right? So 10 is still a pretty high severity score. Something like 4, a little less severe, right? It's 4 out of 25, okay? There's a lot of other options our user can use to log in. It's probably not going to be game breaking for them or experience breaking, okay? But that's how you do the math. That's kind of how you set it up. Again, when you're starting your tests, just start with this, okay? And you can go back and add these later, okay? You can sort of determine these later, and it has no effect on these numbers, which are what you need to collect live when you're doing the test. All right. So I hope that helps. You may have to go watch that again to understand it, but this is a really common, easy way to create like these severity scores and have, cold hard data on why you're making the decision to focus on a specific part of the app. Okay. So I hope that video or this video has helped you understand these tables. And, if you have further questions, feel free to ask them in one of our live streams. There's going to be an announcement coming soon on when you'll be able to join those. I'm going to try to have 2 per week. One will be on Wednesday, and another will probably be on a Monday in the middle of the day to get people who can't make the Wednesday one. But anyways, announcement coming up on that soon. Hope this video helped, and I will see you in one of those live streams maybe. All right, bye.